My daughter-in-law called me his past. So I let her dance, not knowing I control the deed to their future home. The humid August air in downtown Houston made my police uniform stick uncomfortably to my skin as I walked through the precinct for what I knew would be one of my final shifts before retirement. After 35 years of serving the Houston Police Department, walking the same corridors where I'd built my career felt bittersweet, especially knowing that my relationship with my son Marcus had become strained in recent months due to his fiancée Jessica's persistent attempts to minimize my role in his life. The tension had been building ever since Marcus announced his engagement to Jessica, a corporate lawyer from River Oaks who seemed determined to erase any trace of what she called his blue-collar background in preparation for their upcoming wedding. During family gatherings, she would make subtle comments about how Marcus needed to evolve beyond his past and focus on building a more sophisticated future with her high society connections in Houston's most exclusive neighborhoods. If this story is resonating with you, please comment below about where you're watching this video from, give it a like, and subscribe to our channel because we truly help families who go through these difficult situations. Your support helps us continue sharing these stories of resilience and hope. What Jessica didn't know was that 3 weeks earlier, I had received a call from my longtime friend and former partner detective Ray Johnson, who had transitioned into real estate investment after retiring from the force 5 years ago. He informed me about a foreclosure property that had become available in the prestigious Tanglewood area, a beautiful colonial-style house that Marcus and Jessica had been admiring for months but couldn't afford on their combined salaries despite Jessica's legal career and Marcus's position as a mechanical engineer. Ray had discovered through his network that the property owners, a wealthy oil executive and his wife, had encountered severe financial difficulties due to bad investments in the energy sector and were being forced to sell their $750,000 home for significantly less than market value. The asking price had dropped to $480,000, still a substantial amount but within reach of my retirement savings and pension investments that I had been carefully managing for over 3 decades. The irony was particularly bitter because just the week before, Jessica had made a comment during Sunday dinner at my modest house in the Heights about how Marcus would need to distance himself from certain family obligations once they were married and established in their new life together. She had been discussing their housing search with obvious frustration, lamenting that they couldn't afford the kind of neighborhood where her law firm partners lived and where she felt they belonged socially. During that same dinner, Marcus had remained largely silent while Jessica outlined her vision for their future, which included minimal contact with his previous life and maximum integration into her social circle of lawyers, doctors, and business executives who moved in Houston's elite circles. The pain of watching my son nod along with these plans while avoiding eye contact with me was a wound that cut deeper than any physical injury I had sustained during my decades in law enforcement. My wife Maria had passed away from cancer 8 years earlier, and since then, Marcus had been my closest family connection, the person who inherited her warm smile and generous heart. Watching him gradually withdraw from our relationship under Jessica's influence reminded me of the domestic violence cases I had worked throughout my career, situations where one person systematically isolated their partner from their support network to maintain control over their life decisions. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Ray back and instructed him to proceed with purchasing the Tanglewood property using my name only, keeping the transaction completely confidential until I decided how to handle the situation. Within 2 weeks, I had become the legal owner of the exact house that Marcus and Jessica had been dreaming about but couldn't afford, though neither of them had any idea about this development. Houston's real estate market had been particularly competitive that summer, with multiple families bidding on desirable properties in established neighborhoods like Tanglewood, River Oaks, and Memorial. Jessica had been increasingly frustrated by their inability to compete with cash offers from wealthy buyers, often complaining that Marcus's background was holding them back from achieving the lifestyle she considered appropriate for a successful lawyer. The house itself was a stunning example of traditional architecture, featuring 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen with granite countertops, hardwood floors throughout, and a beautifully landscaped backyard with mature oak trees that provided natural shade during Houston's brutal summer months. The master suite included a walk-in closet and spa-like bathroom that Jessica had photographed during their initial tour, posting the images on social media with captions about manifesting their dream home. Located on a quiet cul-de-sac within walking distance of excellent schools and upscale shopping centers, The property represented everything that Jessica valued about Houston's affluent lifestyle. The neighborhood association maintained strict standards for home maintenance and landscaping, ensuring that property values remained stable while creating the kind of prestigious address that would impress her legal colleagues and social connections. My plan was simple but required careful timing. I would allow Marcus and Jessica to continue their house hunting frustrations for a few more weeks, while observing how Jessica treated both Marcus and me during this stressful period. If she demonstrated genuine respect for our family relationships and stopped her campaign to separate Marcus from his roots, I would surprise them with the house as a wedding gift, transferring the deed to their names as a gesture of love and support. However, if Jessica continued her pattern of disrespect and manipulation, I would use the property as leverage to teach both of them important lessons about family loyalty, respect for parents, and the consequences of prioritizing social status over genuine relationships. Either way, I would maintain control over a situation where I had previously felt powerless to protect my relationship with my son. The wedding planning process over the following month provided numerous opportunities to observe Jessica's true character. During venue visits, she consistently excluded me from important decisions while insisting that Marcus defer to her preferences in every detail. When discussing the guest list, she suggested that my police colleagues might make other guests uncomfortable due to their blue-collar backgrounds, recommending that I invite only a few select friends to avoid changing the wedding's sophisticated atmosphere. Marcus's bachelor party became another source of tension when Jessica vetoed his plans to include his childhood friends from our old neighborhood, arguing that the celebration should focus on his new life rather than dwelling on his past. Instead, she organized an expensive weekend in Austin with her male lawyer friends and their partners, an event that cost more than Marcus typically spent in 3 months, but which Jessica considered appropriate for someone marrying into her social circle. The breaking point came during the rehearsal dinner, held at an upscale restaurant in River Oaks that Jessica's parents had selected and paid for despite my offers to contribute financially. Throughout the evening, Jessica made a series of increasingly hurtful comments about Marcus's need to grow beyond his origins and embrace the opportunities that marriage to her would provide for social and professional advancement. When I attempted to give a traditional father's speech sharing memories of Marcus's childhood and expressing my pride in the man he had become, Jessica interrupted to suggest that the evening should focus on looking forward rather than backward. She then delivered her own speech about how Marcus had evolved since meeting her and how their marriage represented his transformation into someone who could succeed in Houston's competitive professional environment. The humiliation was complete when Jessica's father followed with comments about how they had welcomed Marcus into their family despite his humble background, and expected that their investment in his future would be rewarded with appropriate gratitude and loyalty. Marcus sat silently throughout these speeches, occasionally glancing at me with what appeared to be shame or embarrassment about his family history. That night, I made the final decision about the house. I called Ray and instructed him to prepare all the necessary paperwork to transfer the property deed to Marcus's name only, explicitly excluding Jessica from ownership rights. If their marriage succeeded despite the rocky start, Marcus could add her name later. If it failed due to her materialistic priorities and controlling behavior, he would have financial security independent of her family's influence. The wedding day itself was a lavish affair held at the country club where Jessica's family held membership, featuring imported flowers, a live orchestra, and a guest list dominated by Houston's legal and business elite. I wore my dress police uniform with full honors, a decision that clearly annoyed Jessica but which Marcus had specifically requested as a tribute to my career and service to the community. During the reception, Jessica made sure to seat me at a table with distant relatives rather than at the head table with immediate family, explaining to anyone who asked that she wanted to honor Marcus's independence by not emphasizing his dependent relationships. The message was clear. In Jessica's version of their future, I was a relic from Marcus's past rather than an integral part of their ongoing family story. The dancing portion of the evening provided the perfect metaphor for the entire relationship dynamic. Jessica spent most of her time on the dance floor with her lawyer friends and their partners, moving to expensive live music while Marcus attempted to keep up with social dances he had never learned during his working-class upbringing in the Heights. I watched from my assigned table as my son struggled to fit into a world that seemed determined to make him feel inadequate. When the traditional father-son dance was announced, Jessica made a point of commenting loudly that such old-fashioned traditions were becoming obsolete in modern marriages, where couples were independent from their parents. Nevertheless, Marcus insisted on honoring the tradition, and we shared 3 minutes on the dance floor where he quietly apologized for Jessica's behavior while explaining that he hoped marriage would help her become more accepting of our family relationships. The honeymoon period that followed their European vacation provided a temporary calm in our family dynamics, though I noticed that Marcus's calls became less frequent and his visits to my house decreased significantly. Jessica had apparently established new rules about how much time he could spend with outside influences that might interfere with their adjustment to married life and their focus on career advancement. Meanwhile, I had been using my time productively to prepare the Tanglewood house for eventual occupancy. Working with contractors I had known through my police work, I updated the kitchen appliances, refinished the hardwood floors, and made necessary repairs to ensure that the property would be in perfect condition whenever Marcus learned about his ownership. The monthly mortgage payments were easily manageable with my police pension and retirement savings. The first major crisis in their marriage occurred 4 months after the wedding when Jessica's law firm failed to promote her to partner as she had expected. The disappointment triggered a series of angry outbursts where she blamed Marcus for dragging down her professional image by reminding colleagues of her connection to law enforcement families rather than established legal dynasties that dominated Houston's legal community. During this period, Marcus began calling me more frequently, initially to vent about Jessica's mood swings and increasing demands for lifestyle upgrades they couldn't afford on their current salaries. Their apartment in the Galleria area was expensive but not prestigious enough for Jessica's standards, and she had been pressuring Marcus to take on additional debt to move to a more impressive address that would enhance her professional reputation. The financial pressure was clearly affecting Marcus's mental health and job performance. He had always been a practical person who lived within his means, but Jessica's materialistic expectations were forcing him to consider decisions that went against his fundamental values about responsible money management. She had begun using credit cards to maintain her desired lifestyle, assuming that Marcus would find ways to pay the mounting bills. I decided it was time to reveal the truth about the house during one of our coffee meetings at a diner near his office in the energy corridor. Marcus arrived looking exhausted and stressed, immediately launching into complaints about Jessica's latest demands for expensive furniture and designer clothing that they couldn't afford without taking on dangerous levels of debt. When I placed the property deed on the table between us, showing his name as the sole owner of the Tanglewood house, Marcus initially thought it was some kind of joke or mistake. The reality took several minutes to register as I explained the timeline of the purchase, my motivations for keeping it secret, and my decision to ensure his financial security regardless of what happened in his marriage. The revelation changed everything about Marcus's perspective on his relationship with Jessica. He realized that while she had been criticizing his family background and demanding that he distance himself from his past, his police officer father had been quietly providing exactly the kind of financial security that she claimed only her family could offer. The irony was overwhelming and deeply troubling to him. Marcus spent the next week processing the implications of my gift and deciding how to handle the information in his marriage. He ultimately chose to confront Jessica directly about her treatment of me and her unrealistic financial expectations, using the house deed as evidence that her assumptions about our family's capabilities had been completely wrong from the beginning. Jessica's reaction was predictable but revealing. Rather than expressing gratitude or apologizing for her previous behavior, she became angry that Marcus had kept the information secret and demanded to know why her name wasn't included on the deed. She viewed the house as validation of her lifestyle demands rather than as a gesture of love from a father to his son, immediately beginning to plan expensive renovations and furnishing projects. The confrontation escalated when Marcus explained that the house came with conditions. Jessica would need to demonstrate genuine respect for our family relationship and abandon her campaign to isolate him from his background. If she couldn't accept these terms, he would consider whether their marriage was based on love or simply on her desire for financial and social advancement through his connections. Jessica's response revealed the true nature of her priorities. She accused Marcus of being manipulated by his father and demanded that he choose between maintaining his relationship with me or preserving their marriage. She argued that accepting the house under my conditions would make them dependent on law enforcement family connections that could damage her professional reputation in Houston's elite legal community. The marriage ended 6 months later when Jessica filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, but clearly frustrated that she couldn't control the financial aspects of their relationship as she had expected. Since her name wasn't on the house deed and they had been married for less than a year, she received minimal financial benefit from the divorce settlement, walking away with only her personal belongings and mounting credit card debt. Marcus moved into the Tanglewood house immediately after the divorce was finalized, finally able to enjoy the beautiful property without the stress of Jessica's constant criticism and demands for social upgrades. The house became a symbol of our renewed relationship and his return to the values that had been important to our family throughout his childhood and adolescence. The experience taught both of us valuable lessons about the importance of maintaining family relationships despite external pressures, and the dangers of allowing materialistic priorities to override genuine love and respect. Marcus learned to trust his instincts about people's character rather than being swayed by superficial attractions or social status considerations. 2 years later, Marcus met Sarah, a public school teacher who shared his values about family, community service, and living authentically rather than trying to impress others with expensive displays of wealth. Their relationship developed naturally based on genuine compatibility and mutual respect, including appreciation for the sacrifices that law enforcement families make for their communities. When Marcus brought Sarah to meet me, the contrast with Jessica was immediately apparent. Sarah treated me with warmth and respect, asking thoughtful questions about my police career and expressing genuine interest in the stories that had shaped Marcus's character during his formative years. She understood that our family history was something to be proud of rather than hidden or overcome. Their wedding was held in our backyard in the Heights, with barbecue catered by a local restaurant that had been feeding police officers for decades, music provided by a mariachi band that included several musicians I had known through community policing work, and decorations created by Sarah's students and their families. The celebration was authentic and joyful, focusing on love and community rather than social status and expensive displays. During his speech at the reception, Marcus spoke publicly about the lessons he had learned from his first marriage about the importance of staying true to family values and not allowing others to define his worth based on their social prejudices. He specifically thanked me for demonstrating that real love sometimes requires patience and wisdom, including the ability to provide support even when it isn't immediately appreciated or understood. Sarah added her own comments about how proud she was to marry into a family with such strong values and community connections, emphasizing that Marcus's background in law enforcement family traditions made him a better man rather than someone who needed to hide his past. Her acceptance and celebration of our family history created the foundation for a much healthier marriage based on authenticity and mutual respect. Today, 5 years after that painful wedding where Jessica tried to erase my importance in Marcus's life, I have a wonderful relationship with both Marcus and Sarah, and I'm a grandfather to 2 beautiful grandchildren who love hearing stories about their grandfather's adventures as a Houston police officer. The Tanglewood house has become a gathering place for family celebrations and holiday traditions. Jessica occasionally appears in local legal news, having eventually made partner at a different firm after leaving Houston for Dallas, where her Houston connections were less relevant to her professional advancement. Marcus rarely mentions her, having moved completely beyond that chapter of his life and focusing on building something genuine with Sarah and their growing family. The house that I purchased during those difficult months has become much more than a financial investment. It represents the triumph of family love over social manipulation, the importance of patience in dealing with adult children's mistakes, and the value of maintaining our principles even when others try to convince us that they are outdated or insufficient for modern life. Marcus has thrived in his career as an engineer, earning respect based on his skills and integrity rather than trying to impress people with superficial social connections. His success has been built on the solid foundation of values that we established during his childhood, proving that authenticity and hard work remain the most reliable paths to genuine achievement and happiness. The experience taught me that sometimes the best way to help our adult children is to provide them with security and support while allowing them to learn important lessons through their own experiences and mistakes. Love doesn't always mean protecting people from consequences, but rather ensuring that they have the resources to recover and rebuild when they make choices that don't serve their best interests. Our family story became one of redemption and growth, demonstrating that even the most painful betrayals can lead to stronger relationships when people are willing to acknowledge their mistakes and commit to doing better. The bond between Marcus and me emerged from the crisis stronger than ever, built on mutual respect and shared understanding of what truly matters in life. The police pension that had seemed modest compared to Jessica's family wealth proved to be the foundation for financial security that allowed us to weather her attempts to control our family dynamics. Sometimes the steady, reliable approach to building resources serves families better than flashy displays of wealth that come with strings attached and expectations that compromise personal integrity. Looking back on those difficult months when I watched my son drift away under Jessica's influence, I'm grateful for the wisdom that came from my years in law enforcement, the ability to remain calm under pressure, think strategically about long-term consequences, and trust that truth eventually prevails over manipulation when people have the courage to face reality honestly. The Tanglewood house continues to appreciate in value, but its real worth to our family can't be measured in dollars. It represents proof that love, patience, and strategic thinking can overcome attempts to destroy family relationships, and that sometimes the best gifts are those that come with expectations for growth, respect, and appreciation rather than unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior. Marcus and Sarah are now planning to expand the house to accommodate their growing family, adding rooms for the grandchildren and creating spaces for the multi-generational gatherings that have become central to our family traditions. The property that once symbolized Jessica's materialistic ambitions has become the foundation for a much more meaningful legacy of family love and community connection. If this story has touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to comment below and let us know where you are watching from, as well as your thoughts on family dynamics like this. Every perspective matters, because stories like these remind us that while families may face struggles, challenges, and even heartbreak, there is always an opportunity for healing, connection, and growth. By sharing your own reflections, you not only add to the conversation but also create a ripple effect of encouragement for others who may be experiencing something similar. When you engage, whether it's through commenting, liking, or subscribing, you are helping us build a space where families can feel less alone and more supported. Many people silently carry burdens within their homes, and often just hearing that someone else understands can provide an enormous sense of relief and hope. This channel is more than a platform for stories. It's a community where resilience, compassion, and solidarity take center stage. Your support allows us to continue creating and sharing content that uplifts, inspires, and shines a light on the very real challenges that families go through. We believe that even in the most difficult circumstances, there are lessons to be learned and strength to be found. And together, by engaging with these stories, we can remind one another that no family has to navigate their journey in isolation. So please, if this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you're not just supporting us. You're standing with countless families around the world who find courage and comfort in knowing that they are part of a wider circle of understanding and care. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for helping us continue to share these powerful stories of resilience and hope.